Hey, Jordan here. Today I'm going to show you how to install Threestudio and use the Stable Zero123 model to be able to create 3D objects like this. Before we start, here are all the requirements. We're going to need to download the Stable Zero123 model, where we could go to Files and Versions and then click on Stable Zero123, download here. And then I'm going to cancel this because I already have it. And then we'll need the Threestudio project. We're going to be doing a git clone on this. And then you'll either need Photoshop or you'll need GIMP or whatever other image editing tool you need. It's just to crop it to 512 by 512. All right, now we're going to download Anaconda. Go to Free Download and then scroll all the way down to the bottom. And then click on this one here, 64-bit installer. And we'll click on that. I already have it, so I'm not going to download it again. All right, well, let's get to generating the image. I'm going to use Bing Image Generator to generate a front and a back view of the character. Take a look here, and you see that I've got T-pose of a 3D adventure game character design, front and back, solid background. When you generate an image, you're going to have to look for a few details to make sure that your 3D object is going to be able to animate properly when you put it into Mixamo. So I'll go through a number of examples here that I downloaded, and I'll tell you which ones are good and which ones are bad. So here, this one's very good. You could clearly see the armpits, and you could clearly tell the legs aren't too close together. So this is a great one. This one, this one's kind of okay. You know, the armpit is a bit lower, so you'll still get the stretchy lat thing, but still pretty good. This one is no good because you can't see the armpits. The arm is too close to the body, so don't use this one. Now we're in Photoshop. Let's create a new file. We're going to make it 512 by 512. Click on Create. Then click and drag your image that you generated and put it in Photoshop. Now we're going to remove the background. Let's raster size this layer, and we're going to use the selection tool here, object selection tool, select this character, and then we're going to select the inverse and delete, get rid of this hand, move this person to the center. I'm going to remove this hair on the side here too. Now we're going to go File, Export, Export as PNG. Make sure you save it into the Downloads folder, and we're just going to save it. Now we are going to install Windows Subsystem for Linux. Click on the Windows key, type in Windows Features On or Off. Click Enter. We will scroll down to the bottom here, and then make sure that this is ticked on. I already have it on, so I'm not going to click it again. But once you click it and then say OK, it's going to ask you to restart the computer. So do that now, and I will wait for you. Hey, welcome back. All right, now that you've restarted your computer, let's get to installing Windows Subsystem for Linux in the command prompt. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Windows key again, and then type in PowerShell, and we will run this as administrator. Now, what you're going to type is WSL install, and then press Enter. Now, I already have Windows Subsystem for Linux installed, so it goes straight to my distribution. But for you, it will ask you for a username, and then it'll ask you for a password. Just type those in, and then you'll be good to go. And it'll take a while to install. Great. You've installed the distribution, and now we're going to install all of the tools. First, we're going to set up the environment. So we're going to do sudo apt get update. Looking for your password, just put that in. Now we're going to do sudo apt install python blah 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 blah. I'll have this on my website. You could just copy and paste it and follow along. It'll be a lot easier than to type all this out. Do I want to continue? Yes. Now we're going to do an update. All packages are up to date. Perfect. Great. Now we are going to install the CUDA Toolkit. And we're going to be installing the Toolkit version 12.1. First, we're going to delete the key. Gives you a warning, deprecated warning, that's all right. Then we're going to copy this. You could look in the description below, and I have a link that shows you how to install it as well. It's easier if you just go to my website, but if you want to take a look at the toolkit will tell you how to install it as well. And then we're going to do this one, press enter, and wget is the next one. So now we are getting great. Now we're going to install the toolkit with this command. Great. And then if you read this here, the public CUDA repo WSL blah 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 does not appear to be installed. The key doesn't appear to be installed. So what you could do, you just copy this here. You could right-click to copy, and then right-click to paste as well, and then enter. Great. Okay, now we've got the key. The next command, another update. Now let's run this command as well. Now I'm going to update the path for that one and for this one. And then to check your version, you could do nvcc -- version. And then you could see here, we've got version 12.1. Perfect. All right, we are done installing the CUDA Toolkit 12.1. Now let's install Anaconda. We're going to change the directory to a directory in our Windows machine. So what you could see is it's going to our C users, the username, and then the downloads folder. So this is where we put all of our assets. We put it in the downloads folder here. All right, now that we've done that, we are going to run this command here. And this is just taking the file and installing it in a directory in our Linux environment here. Let's change back to the root directory, and then we're going to initialize this bash and this zsh here. Perfect. And then we're just going to quickly check the bash file to make sure that, that it got updated. It should. You don't really need to do this step, but I always like checking. Nano just allows us to make edits to a file in here. So we'll just go all the way down to the bottom. All right, perfect. So we could see Conda initialize. Perfect. All right, and then we're going to Control and X to quit. Great. So now what we're going to have to do is we're going to open up a new instance. It's the same one. So I'll explain this. So here's my main one. I had to actually create another distribution environment so that I could show you how to do it from scratch. So that's why it's going to look a little bit different than yours. But anyway, we're just restarting this so that this update that we made to Anaconda takes into effect. Great, so now that we're back in here, we're going to write Conda, and we could see that we've got it here installed because it shows us all the different commands, which is great. We could finally start downloading the Threestudio repo. So let's do that. Git clone, why am I typing? Git clone this. I'll zoom in here so you guys could see. And then now we're going to change the directory to this one here. And we're going to put in, this is what I was mentioning before about having everything in the downloads folder and the C drive. So this is taking that file from the C drive and we're putting it into the 0123 directory where we want it to be. and the dot just means this current directory, which is this here. All right, now we're going to update the Stable Zero123.yaml file. We're going to do that by going to the configs. So we'll change directory to the configs. And by the way, you could type like ls and you'll be able to take a look to see what's in here. So if you're ever trying to figure out what directory you could go to, you could press that. Also, you could press tab as well. Like if you press T and tab, it will show that, and it's like, okay, now I'll type in co and then configs. So it's a lot faster to do it that way as well, but we're just copying and pasting, which is even faster. All right, now we're going to nano stable 0. I mean, I guess that was faster, but whatever. Okay, let's scroll down to the batch size. So this is important here. Let me pull up a comparison here. You can see the batch sizes, 1284, 842, blah, 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 blah. And the amount of time that it took, I've got an RTX 4090, 24 gigs of VRAM. The 1284 took 5 hours, then the 842, 50 minutes, 421, 5 minutes, and the 111, 3 minutes. And if you take a look, I mean, there's obviously a big difference between the 111 and the 1284. But the 1284 and the 842, really not that much of a difference. And it doesn't even really look, honestly, it doesn't really look that much better anyway. Like if you take a look at them both, they don't really, there's not really much of an improvement. The 5-minute one, this is my favorite here because it kind of balances the quality of the 842 and the 111, and it only takes 5 minutes. So this is a very good compromise. I definitely recommend using this setting if you don't want to do any like the UV editing at the end. If you are doing the UV editing, then 111 is the best one to use because then you're just really getting the mesh. You don't really care about the texture here. But that's more for characters that you're working on. But if you're creating an object, then you'll probably, if you're not creating a character, then 421 is the best. And you could experiment a bit with the 421, and if you find that there's one model that's working really well and it looks sort of nice here, but you just want to make it a little bit more crispy, not crispy, but make it a little better, then you could run this one. And then this one, I don't know, I wouldn't even touch this one at all. All right, let's go back to our command window. Now that you saw the comparison chart, we are going to change it to 421. And then we're going to press Control X to exit, and we're going to say yes to modified, and then enter, and there you go. Great, so now that we're done that, let's go back to Threestudio, and we're going to now create the Conda environment. Now this is important. You've got to use 3.10.13 for Python. That's the version that you want to create because any other version didn't work. I tried a couple of different versions. I tried 3.10.12 because there were some other dependencies that required for 12. For some other applications I was testing out, but for this one it wasn't working. So I had to create a new one specifically for Threestudio and use the version 3.10.13. And this will take a while. Say yes. Okay, not that much of a while. Okay, now we're going to go into our environment here. Threestudio. Great, and you can see that we're in the environment by taking a look at this down here. Now, I did use virtual environment, so VENV, when I first ran this, and it worked. I just found that working in other repos that there were dependency issues, and I was reading up online, and Conda's a lot better at handling dependency issues. So that's why I moved from doing it the virtual env route and did it this way. Anyway, now we're going to start installing the dependencies. So let's install our CUDA. Now we're going to update our paths. we're going to install Ninja. Apparently this will help speed up the generation times as well. And now we're going to pip install the requirements. And let me just show you something, teach you a little something. So I'll just delete all this here. If you type ls, so what that pip install requirements is doing is it's looking in here and it's taking a look at the requirements.txt file, which has a list. I could just open it up here. .txt. So if we take a look, it's got a list of all the different dependencies that it will install. And if I scroll down, you'll see it. Anyway, quick little tidbit. All right, let's pip install now. I'm going to show you all the different versions, so if you do run into errors, you can troubleshoot and you could compare your versions to mine. Let's start with the NVCC, which is the NVIDIA CUDA Toolkit. Got 12.1. Let's take a look at Python 3 version, Python 3.10.13, and then let's take a look at Conda list. And I'll scroll through it, and you could pause it whenever you want to take a look at all the different versions. And there you go, those are all the different versions. Compare yours with mine to see if they match. If they match, it should work. If not, try the steps again. Phew, all right, well that took a while. Now we could finally start generating our 3D object, or our character in this instance. But before that, we're going to go to our user directory and we're going to create a new folder called Threestudio Exports. And then in there, we're going to create a new folder called Export. And we're just going to keep it to export. And then once you export it into this folder, that's when I change the name. And you can see I've got a naming convention here. So this is the model that I use, Stable Zero123, and then the name of the object, Robot Man, and then BS is batch size, and then it's the 421. I'm just going to call this test, and then I'll create a new one called export. Great, let's go back. Let's clear the screen. Start from fresh. Let's make our 3D object. We've got to change the directory to load our image. So we did put our image in the download directory first. If you want to use a sample, you could just type in ls and take a look at all the different options here. I recommend using one that doesn't have any suffix at the end. So something like hamburger.png or beachhouse2.png, none of the depths or normals. Now I'm going to copy my image. Let's do white hoodie. Let's do ls. Yep, whitehoodie.png. Perfect. All right, we're going to change back to the directory. ... just means go back to the previous directory. So this is the command that will take a ton of time if you've got a batch size of 16, 8, and 4. Changing it to 421 makes it go very, very fast. So let's change this. It's not a black hoodie, it's a white hoodie. So we'll just change that. That's the system prompt processor prompt. And we'll go back here and we will change this here as well to a white hoodie. We're going to change the directory to 0123-psi, and I'm sighing because if you take a look at this naming convention here, we've got 64 comma space 128 comma space 256. Man, that was it's not a lot of fun to deal with, because when we're setting the paths in the next step, as you can see here, we've got the single quotes at the top, and the reason that we have that is because if we don't have those single quotes, you're going to have 64 comma space, and that's going to treat it like an escape, and it's just going to end up airing out. So make sure that these single quotes are in the in this path that you're setting here. And whoops, I set it to the wrong one. I should have copied this, so let me just do this again and copy this and put it here. There we go. White hoodie. Got the wrong one there. Now we've got the right one. Perfect. And then we're going to do the same thing for the config. Now here we're using double quotes because we've got a variable in here and we want it to be able to still read the variable. If we use the single quotes, it's just going to view this as a string and not a variable. So that's why we've got the double quotes here. And also, if we don't have any of the quotes in there, it's going to have the same issue as this one here. If any of the developers are watching this, please change the naming convention of this part here and just put hyphens instead. It'd be a lot easier. And then the checkpoint file. Okay, let's go back to Threestudio. Now we could run the Python launch. Great, perfect. That didn't take too long. And now we're very close to being able to see our generation. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change the directory back to 0123-sci, and we are going to change the directory. Actually, I'll just show you what it looks like. So there's the export there, and we're going to change into that directory. So now that we're in here, we're going to do change directory, and then I'm going to do the bracket here, and I'm going to do tab. So if I press tab, it'll auto-complete the name up until there's another directory or a file that's in there that has a similar name, and then you just type in a little bit and then you tab again, you type a little bit, tab again until you get what you want to get from the directory. Anyway, I'll press enter. You can take a look in here too. It's always fun looking at what's in directories. And now we see that there's the save, which is where we want to go. So we'll go to change directory save, ls, and there you go. There's the object and some videos of the object as well, of it just spinning around. So now we want to copy it from Linux into our Windows machine. So we're going to do copy R, this means recursive, everything that's in this directory to our Threestudio exports /export. So that's that's the directory that we created right before we started all of this. We're going to press enter and boom, it's done. Very fast. Great. Now we could take a look at our object. Great. Now if we go to export, we can see our object. So here's the training image and all the different steps. And we'll look at the last one, which is the one that has the hyphen value. And there you go. If you would like to create another 3D object, just click back to the Image to 3D Model Workflow chapter. Here are a couple of other examples that I generated. And here is a dance party I made in Blender. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you want to learn how to create a scene like this, click on this tutorial here. I'll show you how to import into Blender, export to Mixamo, and make them dance like this. All right, that's it. See you next time.